Hey folks, and welcome to the video on Power Platform. In today's video, we'll talk about how we can build a Canvas app from scratch. Now with Power Platform, there are different ways that you could be creating an app from. It could be very little effort to a lot of effort. My background, my name is Chris. I come from a background of being a professional developer, so I like to be in control of everything. For you as a business developer, or as we call you, a citizen developer, you have the know-how about how your business works. So if you're completely new to Power Platform, I do recommend to start here from a template. If you use a template, you will be able to get one of these sample apps up and running, such as for a fundraiser or asset checkout and so on. So there are a lot of examples where it showcases the capabilities of Power Platform. As I said, I'm professionally trained as a developer, meaning that I want to start from scratch, so I want to know everything. So if you're just like me, tag along with me on this journey of an app from scratch. I start with selecting a blank app. Now here I can select between a blank app from Dataverse or a blank website. In this case, I'll do a blank Canvas app, and then I can just call it Chris Demo 1. You choose what you want to call it, and you can also select whether this is for tablet or for phone. I'm going to go with tablet. So once I create this, it will show me an editor. So this is my app in editor mode. It's completely blank. It says add an item from the insert pane or connect to data. Here we see that we have a screen selected. To add controls to the screen, I can do like so, and I can, for example, select a text label that will show me some text, or I could be adding a button, for example, and we could rename that button into save, for example. Very common that we want to save data. We also, here on the right, we have this editor field where we can just edit the component as we see fit, everything from text to visibility to position, size, color, border, font family. Yeah, there's a lot of properties that you can customize. Now I have a label, I have a button, so that's great. So what I'm going to do is to try to change the values of the label. What I can do is I go into save and I click this drop down, and I see in this drop down how I have various things that I can choose, everything from visible to width, but I will go with something called on select. Now this on select is being triggered as I click the button. So what I need to do is to call this update context. Update context is a function that we can use to create and also update temporary variables that we can use within the context of the screen. So here I can say my var equals something. I want it to be something, so I'm gonna say clicked. Okay, great. So I've created the my var variable. I've set it to a value. How will my app know about it? Well, if I click here, then I can say with an and character, and then I can say my var. And this is the same thing as me concatenating this static string, some text, with the value of my var. Now, if I try to run this, you can see how my app goes from editor mode to showcasing the actual app. And if I click save, I see that some text has now been updated to say some text clicked. And clicked was that string that I said would be on the save button. Now, of course, imagine that this was a bit more flexible. I probably want some kind of input field instead. I want the text input. And if I can use the text input, I can instead take my values from there. So instead of having this very static value, I can say I want text input dot text. Now text is the property, this is holding the value, and it's not called just text input but text input 1. And how do I know that? Well, if I click this component, I can see that it is called text input 1. If I want to change that into some more logical name, I can do so. For example, let's call this first name instead. Now as I have changed this to first name, you see that it's being updated here as well, so that's great. And it's also, at this point, I don't really need to care about it, right? Because this one is referring to my var, and if I look at the save button, I see that it says it's going to set my var into first name.text. Great, so shall we see if this works? We run it again, and this time around I'm gonna say my name's Chris, and I'm gonna do some text. And if I didn't like this looks a bit compressed, so I can actually adjust this and go in and say, okay, let's add some more space there. That's great. And let's try that again. So this is great, right? I can toggle between editor and the actual app and see how that performs, and we see that this now looks better. If I want to change that to Chris 2, I can see that that happens. What about clearing input fields? Well, there's a very nifty thing you can do, because you can click this and then you can hit this clear button. What we do now is to enable this X that we can hit. So this one will actually generate as an X if I hover over the text input. So let's see how that works. I can go in here and I can set this. You see how great that is? And if I now take the input from the text input and hit save, you can see that it's blanking out the value of the variable. But if I don't want to use X at this point, but I'd rather want to do this programmatically, right? Because now as a user I need to go in and clear after the fact. Maybe that's not the behavior I want. I'd rather want the behavior where, look, can't I just set this somehow? I'm gonna try something here, and that is to expand this. You saw I had the ability to drag this up a bit, meaning that I can actually add several lines of code here. So if I hit reset on text input 1, that's not what it's called, right? It's called first name these days. So okay, so what we did is to hit the semicolon to make sure that this is conveyed as different statements. So first off, update the context, meaning we set this variable to that of the input box, and then we invoke the reset method on the input field itself. Let's see what happens. Can put this back a little bit, like so it's not so big. And let's do ABC. Oh, and that worked, right? So that's all I actually had for this video, because I wanted you to have a feel for what it's like to lay out controls on your screen, what it's like to work with a contextual variable that only works in that specific screen. How can I clear it? How can I change it? And how can I use such a nifty thing as this X here, saying that I typed something already, I want to hit the X to clear that value. That's how you do it. So yeah, I hope you are more curious about Power Platform, because I'm going to produce a lot of these videos showcasing various controls and their functionality. But now you know the following. You know that update context is how you update a variable with a new value. You know that reset is used to reset certain controls. You also know that on save and has an event on select, which you will connect to various pieces of code. And you also know that you can use the AND sign to concatenate a static string with that of a variable. So yeah, hopefully you feel inspired to explore Power Platform a little bit from the programmatic side of things. So yeah, that was everything. If you like videos like this, I would really appreciate a like or subscribe. So I hope I see you in another video. Bye for now.